Welcome to Booking It. Today's episode will be The Aeneid, Part 1. Hey everyone, welcome back to Booking It, where a couple of homeschool guys talk about some books. I'm, of course, your eloquent host, Cooper Cobbs. Joining me today, Michigan hoodie, Michigan hat, as always, Mr. Dabretsky.
Of course. Hello.
To my right, I've always wondered like what these kind of shirts are. They're not flannel, like thicker than flannel.
Yeah.
They are.
I don't know what they are.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's just very farm-esque.
Right, very farm-esque
country.
shirt in his cowboy boots, Mr. Bryson Boswick.
Yeah, I'm back, guys.
Back again, yes. Well, speaking of not
Sadly,
being back.
Tanner has passed away. No, I'm kidding.
No.
We regret to inform you that.
Oh, my bad.
So you just made Miss Emily cry. She's in. Okay. No. Tanner made a last-minute trip with his dad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tanner made a last-minute trip with his dad up to Tulsa for a speech and debate tournament, and they left at like 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't be
things to
here
do.
today. He had things to do. Today we're talking about the Aeneid or the Aeneid, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
I know. I feel like I keep saying
Um,
it wrong.
I just
Whatever
go
it
with-
is.
So
A different version
Aeneid.
of the Iliad.
Iliad.
well, and Odyssey. We'll talk about it.
Aeneid.
It's basically Roman propaganda,
Yeah.
except if Homer kind of wrote it, or someone was trying to imitate Homer. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk about the Aeneid today, introductory material, and books 1 and 2. Bryson, unfortunately, has pulled a Tanner and is not read the material.
Whoa. Hold on, Tanner.
I'm kidding. But so that'll force us. Isaiah and I have some good questions and thoughts. We'll talk about the Aeneid more broadly, and then
Okay.
also try to apply some of the things that kind of are themes to everyday life. So
Yeah.
if you haven't read the Aeneid,
And then
or don't
I'll
plan
ask random questions, and
Right.
then next week I'm going to come back with other random questions from this week.
exactly.
Yep.
So
Well, I guess this question goes for Cooper, considering Bryson did not read it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thoughts
Thanks
on
for
it so far? Do
delivering
you
it.
think you'll like it more or less than either of the other books?
I don't know.
Yes.
I'm curious to know. A friend that I used to do Bible study with, he went to a public school, but it was a classical school, and so they studied the Aeneid in Latin. He said that he really loved like some of the stuff in Latin even. So we're talking about like, okay, is Shakespeare in English, like the peak Shakespeare, is that like the most beautiful language? Does that make sense? Like just like any language at all? And he was like, no, I think some of the Latin in the Aeneid is good. Anyway, so I respect him, and so he likes it a lot. And obviously, like Dante was pretty good, and, and he liked Virgil. So I am trusting people I respect. And yeah, so far, like book 2 was pretty good actually. I thought like the tense,
The parts I could understand.
yeah, like the action in
Isn't
Troy,
that always?
the idea of man, I want to go after this person, I want to go fight, I want to stand and fight for my family, for my home, the kind of despair fight. But ultimately, I need to go and leave. So I got some good stuff in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely don't think I'll like it more than the Odyssey.
Yeah, I don't know, probably not.
I mean, I did think this was good. The first book, I don't know what was going on there, man. That was confusing.
Yeah, well, because actually we can talk about that. That's one of the main things of an epic, right? Like the Iliad just tosses you in the middle of the action. The Aeneid, you're in the middle of the action. They've left Troy already. You know, they're moving on. So yeah, that can be kind of confusing if you don't know the context.
Yeah, it was a bit confusing. I did like the second book, though, like you said.
Yeah.
The parts I could understand. Like I said, I despise that it's in a stinking poem form again.
Why?
But I don't like poems, man.
Wait, does it rhyme?
No, it doesn't rhyme.
No,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's like
It's
in a
because
poem.
it's being translated. Like
Yeah.
if you try to translate it, it'd be really forced. if you try to rhyme it.
Yeah, no, that'd be pretty weird if you tried.
So actually, so I don't know what translation you guys have. I bought the guy who did our Odyssey and Iliad translations. Fagels, yeah.
I would.
this
so
guy.
unfortunately,
That is
this translation was not complete when our when our guide was written, and so the lines will be
okay.
messed up. But it's very good. I wanted to buy it because I really liked his Odyssey translation.
Okay, I'm gonna buy it.
Okay.
when I get
So
home.
it's very beautiful. I made my mom buy it at Barnes & Noble when she was there with me. So I was like, Mom, invest for the future for my sisters as well. So
Invest for the future.
Think about the future.
Think about the future.
their lives.
think about your pietous. But anyway, so yeah, it's good, and I liked it so far. So I like the translation.
We probably should do like a really quick recap of the two books.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, explain to me what's going on.
Do you want to do that, or do you want to do like broad introduction stuff first?
Broad introduction stuff first.
Then we'll
Yeah.
move into summarizing
Yeah.
what happened. Okay.
Okay, so what do you have for broad
Okay. So
introduction
so Virgil is obviously a Roman poet. For those who aren't aware, he was writing like when Augustus was Caesar. So this was about 30 BC. And so he was really tasked with writing, like, what if we had an Odyssey or Iliad, but for the Romans?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my.
Basically, he was like, so what if we had propaganda about how great Rome was?
Yeah. Wow.
But then actually,
start
like,
with the-
wrote
that
a
sounds
masterpiece.
like Caesar.
Trojan horse?
What?
But they start with the
So right, because you have to understand. Okay, basically, the entire Roman culture at this point is like co-opting everything from the Greeks, and so this you want to have something that's like better than the Greeks. And so Troy was, a great city, right? We read the Iliad, we're honestly cheering for the Trojans because we like them. We like Hector a lot better. Troy seems like a pretty good place, and so they wanted to take someone from who was a hero of Troy, but then who left after the Trojan War and went and founded Rome.
Got it.
And so it's very, if you read it, it's very forward facing. Like we already talking about Augustus, we're talking about Romulus and Remus. Like the gods have this understanding of one day in the future, this will be a great place. Like even when Aeneas lands in Rome eventually, like we're still hundreds of years from when Romulus and Remus happen. So it's very forward facing. Now I say propaganda, and this is one of my first questions. It's really a myth. Like it's trying to provide mythology for Romans. Like this unifying myth. And so the Greeks have that with the Iliad, the Odyssey. And so what's interesting to me is that Tolkien with Lord of the Rings, I mean, had to come back there, was really trying to create a myth for like the European West. You know what I mean? Like when he wrote the Lord of the Rings, he was trying to provide mythology for, Europe,
to make people
Western
love
Europe.
it more, make people just more excited about.
Yeah. So my question here is twofold. Then, why was there such a need in ancient Greece and Rome, and ultimately Tolkien saw this need too, to unify, like this unifying myth, this shared history that was true and not true, had complex themes that led to the people. Why was that so important for them? And then secondly, do we have that today in the modern secular West? And if we don't, which I think we don't, is that good or bad? And if it's bad, which I think it is, what are we? What's the results of that? Does that make sense?
I liked all the what ifs that you then answered.
Well, I had to get to where I was going. You know what I mean? I wanted to like lay out the whole thing.
Well, I do think, for the reason that they did this, you kind of already mentioned it, unity. They wanted everyone to be able to band together, and like that was one of the main things of the Roman Empire. They took all of these small bands, small villages, small tribes, and brought them together into one. I mean, it started off conquering them, but just
as they should. Yes.
Unity was one of the main things they were pursuing in the very beginning. Now, as they got bigger and bigger, they started struggling with that, and kind of with their
East and West, and
with their council. What is it called?
The consuls and the Senate. And
with the Senate, they really allowed for diversity of opinions, and
they had a republic in some sense.
Things started getting pretty dicey there, and people weren't agreeing as much, and just lots of problems were arising because of that. And then eventually you have the fall of the Roman Empire because of the disunity, because of, well, I'm for this Caesar, well, I'm for this man, I'm for and so I think main goal was to unify, to get everybody to fight,
shared
work,
history.
And shared history too. Why would the things of the past matter to them as long as they're unified in the present and for the future?
So my question for you is, Isaiah, how important do you think it is for a people, an ethnic group, a nation, so to speak, to have a shared myth in a very like broad sense, not like a fake story, but like this shared mythology, this shared history? How important is it for that to be there, but also it be an encouraging and positive thing for the people, for the nation?
I never thought of that.
This is good. That's why I read things that, and I stir up conversation. You read things, you stir up conversation. Preston does that. Tanner does that. So we do a podcast. Yeah,
that kind of makes me think of what is it? Challenge 2 is doing right now. They're should we risk our lives for art? That's what this kind of reminds me of. Culture, having a history of your civilization.
It's important.
Yeah, and why?
Yeah.
Why is it something that people were willing to risk their lives for in World War II?
Yeah. So here's my thing. Go ahead. Swing on the microphones. This is Tanner's mom, Assembly. She has some thoughts she wants to share with us.
Okay, so I was an exchange student to Australia when I was 15. And when I was there were, we had groups of kids from other countries that would come as well. So we had a 2-week coming together in the country. And so all of the exchange students were at this camp for 2 weeks before we went to our host families. And in that 2 weeks, we learned all kinds of things about Australia and about each other and about kind of a not indoctrination, but kind of.
Right.
Sort of, right. And so
Mild indoctrination.
Mild indoctrination. So anyways, at the end of it, we had this coming together of all the cultures. And so presenting your culture to everyone who was all these exchange students. And we had lots of countries represented. And there were 4 Americans who were in South Australia. We seemed to be the only people group who didn't have what you're asking for,
Wow,
right?
that's so cool.
There were people from Thailand, and they had native dances that everyone knew. They came from all over Thailand. There were 6 kids from Thailand, and these 6 kids from Thailand knew these dances and the stories that those dances were telling.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it was time, you had an hour and a half to prepare something about your culture to then present to all of the students.
And you're like, hamburgers and hot dogs are cool?
Seriously,
Coca-Cola
I'm
and mountains is
I'm
cool?
telling you, I had a shirt with the American flag, and everybody was like, "Ooh, wear that!" And we'll sing the Star Spangled Banner and give them some hot dogs. That was our option.
Yeah.
Everyone else had even to New Zealand.
Yeah.
New Zealand had like these incredible dances, stories that they were able to tell about their culture that they brought to Australia, and we felt like we had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think that's interesting,
Yeah.
and I think that so 2 things. That was very good, and I thought of a lot of things there.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, that mythology is important because it kind of creates a sense of patriotism as well.
Mm-hmm.
And today, patriotism is like pretty much scorned in
Yeah.
America, and I think so. Obviously, like nationalism is like a dirty word now. Like, oh, these extreme nationalists. And obviously, I'm not saying that like the Proud Boys are good, because they're not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, patriotism, like just being proud in some sense, like not obviously pride is a sin, but like being proud just can not be a sin sometimes. Of finding your identity and, hey, I love this people, I love this place, and yes, we are broken, we are fallen, but I love this people and I want to fight to defend it. And having this kind of mythology of, man, look who went before us. Aeneas was before us. Achilles, Hector. I want to fight because these people made us where we are today. And we still have those with Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, might be the closest we have of these people who represent all of the soldiers who have died, giving their life for our country. But I love what you said. Like, America is so unique. That's the second thing I thought of. In that it really is of all the countries ever, the most like melting pot. It is known as a nation of immigrants, a nation of people who came together with a dream, and that was it. They were united not with a sense of history or place, but a dream. And so I'm wondering if, like, is there some sense in which America is at a loss because we really are one of the nations in the world which did not have this. Not everybody has the shared heritage, you know. And so there can be something beautiful with that. That we came to people who immigrated here came with a dream of freedom, of religious liberty, of finding a new life, of prosperity. But also, we lack this kind of shared heritage that many other nations have. And sometimes that can lead to a kind of shallowness if we're not focused on the right things. And to think having a mythology for these people is really important. I'm not saying that people need to go, like, write the great... Actually, and here's another thing, too. America, like, searches for the great American novel. Have you heard about this, guys? Right? Like, is Moby Dick, is Huck Finn, is To Kill a Mockingbird, is that the great American novel? What's the great American novel? And really, the great American novel is not meant to be found, ever. It's meant to be a search because America doesn't have that. But, like, the Russians don't have that problem. They can, like, pick from 30. You know, like, they have War and Peace, Anna Karenina, Dostoevsky, all those kind of people. They can pick.
Yeah.
You know, Britain has Jane Austen. They have Dickens. They have so many storytellers. The ancient world, you know, they have the Iliad, the Odyssey. They're not insecure. Like, America's, like, insecure almost about, like, our mythology even. And so, like, the West has almost become kind of our mythology because it represents, you know, pursuing something, an ideal, but it's not grounded, really. I don't know. So I find that fascinating.
That makes sense.
Miss Emily's got something else to say.
Sorry. So what does that look like then as for believers when we are grafted in?
Yeah.
Like, what do we look like?
Looks like Hebrews 11.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And I was thinking about that when I said we can look behind. Like, we have the history of the saints. We have the history of the faith. We have the history of faithful pre-Christ believers, the Old Testament saints, the New Testament saints. We have the saints since then. We have just this incredible cloud of witnesses, right? And so I really love that. And the idea of sometimes even like with, you know, we are being, some people say with the Lord's Supper, we are being, like, it's mystical. We're being united to Christ, you know, and we are partaking in Christ and being united to him, just as thousands and millions of people have been united to him before in the saints. So we have this heritage. And I really want to point that out because I think secularism is just wicked because it has nothing to ground in. It tries to ground a nation, principles, ideas in what? The people? Like in the will of the people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it needs something else to ground it in. So even when we don't have a shared heritage in a place, we have a shared heritage in Christ and in the tradition of the saints that have gone before us.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why people I went to the Amazon, and we had just an amazing time with believers there, and spread the gospel because we were united to Christ together. We were brothers and sisters. And so we had this heritage that we don't have in the secular West because we have nothing to ground it in. And you see it with loneliness and despair. They just don't have anything to ground their to fight for. They don't have anything to fight for. So I think Chesterton said like the true fighter is the person who has something to fight behind him. Like he's fighting for something behind him, and so people in the West just don't have that. And so I think that I'm not saying like again people that we need to go like worship Tolkien as the modern myth maker, but also I think you made a point like Hebrews 12:11, like 11 and 12, like that is our heritage, and we need to pursue that, recover that, especially for the secular West. I think it would be beneficial. So well, that was a wild discussion, but I loved it.
Yeah.
So much.
Well, and I don't know. At first, I kind of wanted to disagree with you, and I was just thinking of all of the stories I've been told, and everything that we read and talked about in cycle 3, and then going into American history all throughout Challenge. But then I started thinking about what was and kind of has been our goal or the things we are pursuing, and it's always been higher, better, more skilled, more like let's just perfect what we have already. And so at first it began with religious freedom, religious liberty,
right.
Then making a government or making a state that was going to respect the rights of the people, but then also be something that would protect and provide. Well, not necessarily provide, but just protect. And then moved on into discovery and finding something new, finding something...
Manifest destiny.
Yes, manifest destiny, discovering the far west. Then after that, going into the gold rush, and then you have the Industrial Revolution, and then you have... and then technological revolution, and then space race.
Age of information.
Yeah. And just, it's always been a pursuing of higher, of better. So, I don't know, but
like a more perfect nation.
Yeah. But I do see what you're saying. Nowadays, most Americans do not have any idea what it means to be an American.
Yeah.
They don't know our history. They don't know what we were first built on. And we were first built on that heritage that is everlasting.
But America has a nation founded on the heritage of the saints, the legacy of the saints, but also founded upon an ideal, right? Like it is very much America is much more idealistic, and I mean that in a good way, than most nations. Yeah. In terms of it represented a mission, a pursuit, an idea, and in a way that some other nations don't have. Yeah. I agree with that.
So just to wrap that up, I think in a way, you are right, and especially now.
And I'm even talking about America, but the secular Europe too, how even more post-Christian they are than we are, even.
And I think a lot of, especially since I don't know how many years ago was that, Miss Emily, when that happened.
Your Australian thing.
Like 34 years ago.
She said 17.
Just I don't think that would. I mean, in different parts of the world, I definitely still think that would still happen, but I think it's only gotten worse for sure. People have forgotten who they are, who their country is, what they really stand for. So, getting back to that and how did people in ancient history do that? How did people do that for Rome? And that is one of the things that
Virgil was champion. Like when he in his time. As the new Homer, he did it, he succeeded, and guess what? He wanted to destroy the poem. It wasn't complete when he died. He's like, I want to destroy this, and Augustus was like, you can't do that. This is banging. Yeah,
and every one of the major societies, empires that's ever existed was built on some huge pedestal of myths, of legends, of histories of the past.
Yeah.
Whether it was Babylonians, the
Chinese,
Byzantines, the Mongols.
Definitely Mongols, yeah.
They all had a history, a lineage, legacy
Yeah.
that they were building off of.
Yeah.
But anyway, back
all right.
into
Well,
the
so
Aeneid.
let's talk about more about the Aeneid. Do you want to explain? Did you read about this? Like the idea of there's kind of like two epics going on here that kind of like mirror the Odyssey and the Iliad. Do you remember that? So the first part mirrors the Odyssey because they're leaving and traveling to home.
Yeah.
The last part is the Iliad because they've got to fight for it. So
Okay.
the idea is there's like two epics, and we see that because in book 7, which is third of the second
But it's
part.
already on book 7. What the?
No. It's in the Heroes of City of Man. The guy talks about it.
Yeah.
He has a new. So ancient myths speak with invocation to the muse, right? Muse, help me out here. I can't tell this. I need your help. Sing to me, heavenly muse. That happens again in book 7. So we're kind of getting a signal of like something new is happening here. I gotta begin this again with a new invocation to a muse because they've traveled, they're here, now they gotta fight, and I gotta start the second stage of the story. So the Aeneid is kind of two epics, books 1 through 6 mirror the Odyssey, then 7 through 12 is the Iliad. Okay,
maybe that's why we read the Iliad and Odyssey first.
No, well, maybe, but also this comes later.
No, well, maybe.
I mean, this would not make sense if you didn't have the context of either of those.
One thing that is really annoying is the fact that it's not the Greek gods' names.
True.
And it sucks trying to figure
that
out who's
is,
who.
This is the sole purpose we had that CC song. Greek, Roman gods,
Yeah,
Zeus,
but the
Jupiter.
problem is, it messes me up because anytime I'm reading and it's just like Juno, I have to sing the entire song to realize what it is. Every time there's a name.
Wait, isn't there one that's like the same? Is it who's the same on both? Is it Artemis? No, Diane is Artemis.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't remember any of them.
Yeah.
But
So
every time.
it is kind of annoying. I'll be
Every
honest.
single time.
I'll be honest. Okay. Okay, so Isaiah, why don't you summarize what happened in books 1 through 2 as best you can, and then I want to talk about Aeneas and Hector and Achilles and kind of the theme that he represents.
Yeah. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to make this long thing.
Yeah.
Essentially, the first one just starts as like way past the Trojan War. It's like, I think 10 years in the future.
No, 7, I think.
7 years.
But yeah,
okay.
it's many
Somewhere around
years,
that. A while
many
in the
years,
future with the dude Aeneas, I think is how you pronounce his name. Essentially is trying to find a new home after he survived the Trojan War. Some stuff happens. He's told that he's going to end up going to, to Italy, to Carthage, right? I think.
Well, so Carthage is a city they're in book 1.
Oh, okay. And now he's going to Italy.
Go
You're told there's some stuff going on Mount Olympus saying that he will end up finding his home in Italy, and his descendants will be Romulus and Remus. And then as he's traveling, he meets Venus in disguise, and then basically prays to the muses, right?
Yeah, it was at the very beginning, yeah.
Or at the very beginning, yeah. And then it goes to book 2, which totally cuts way back into the past with the whole like Trojan horse thing and.
Actually, you get to see the Trojan horse, like what happened.
Yeah, you get to see what happened with that, and it's not just like they took that as a gift. It's unlike Mr. Peabody and Sherman, it's more like they were told that it was an offering to a god. I forgot the god's name, and that if they take it into their city, it'll like give them wealth and help them be victorious in their fight.
Like, they caught the spy dude, right?
Yeah, and they caught the spy dude
totally fine.
who told them like, hey, if you take it into your city, it'll make you victorious in all your battles. So they took it into the city, and then that night they like woke up to the city being on fire. And then Aeneas basically like there's a bunch of drama going on with him and Helen and all those other guys, and then he just like runs from the city like he was told.
Well, okay.
There's a lot more that happens, but for the sake of time,
basically he realizes the city's lost. He wants to stand and fight, but then gets a message from the god like, we have a greater purpose for you, so like take your family and go
and run.
So he wants to fight, but he wants to go after Helen too, who he thinks is like the cause of all of it, which debate. But anyway, he gets her his family, and then
she
flees.
is.
Yep, and it ends
with Aphrodite.
Okay,
with Aphrodite.
You mean Venus?
yeah, and Paris. Yeah.
Yes, it's Hector's ghost.
Oh, yeah, Hector's ghost. That's right.
Yeah,
Hector's ghost. I was like, missed that guy. Yeah,
forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Hector, I want to compare Aeneas to Hector and Achilles. Okay, so there was some discussion in the Heroes of City of Man about this, but like, what drives Aeneas so far? Like, what is kind of his main ideal? What is his heroic ideal that he kind of represents and that he is striving for?
That's a good question.
It's in like the title.
Bryson? No, I'm kidding.
He wants to fight.
Nope.
He wants to.
Okay. Well, why does he end up not fighting? he submits that instinct to another thing. What is that thing he's
His
submitting
purpose.
to?
He has a greater purpose from the
Right,
gods.
right. But what is that? Why?
Okay.
Why does he submit to that purpose? That's what I'm looking for.
I just thought the reason was because the gods told him he had a greater purpose. He's like, they're my gods. I'm gonna listen to them.
Okay, well, there's actually it's yes, but there's yes, but more.
Okay.
It's deeper than that.
Descendants.
It's only
make
about
Rome.
respecting the
I don't know.
gods. Something about wanting to honor
that's
them.
respect and honor. It's very close. Okay, the idea is piety,
Piety.
and the Greek word is pietas. Okay, so Aeneas represents pietas. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so Hector is eidos, and what's the other word? Philos, and then Achilles is kleos. Okay,
Yeah.
now Aeneas has both of those. Okay?
And Odysseus is Metis.
Yes.
Yeah, just had to stick that in.
And yes, definitely. But so Aeneas is fighting kind of like Achilles. He wants to fight for glory in the beginning, but less, not for himself. Just like Hector, he's fighting for the glory of like a city, of his family.
Fighting for
He
something
doesn't want
behind
Troy
him.
to go down without a fight. He wants that kind of thing. He also was like Hector in that he cares for his family. He fights for his family. He fights for defending them. He's not really fighting for himself like his family. But also he's different in that he has pietas. So when I say piety, is it a positive or negative connotation? And what do you think of?
Remind me what that means.
That's what I'm asking you. When I say piety, what happens? What happens in
Piety, I think of prim, proper, like.
Mm-hmm. I guess.
I want to say Presbyterian to alliterate, just to alliterate.
Pious Presbyterian, so
but like.
we love Presbyterians.
No,
yes.
Presbyterians.
Yes. Just like someone that cares a whole lot more about the rule of the law and obeying it than
Someone from,
anything
like
else.
royalty or higher up in that area.
Yeah. So piety really refers to duty and obligation, especially to your family, and then as we as Christians understand
Really?
it, to God.
Yeah.
Okay. So it deals with your obligations and duty to your family and to God. So here's a good paragraph, and here's the man talks about it. So Aeneas has heroic qualities different from either Homeric hero, meaning Achilles and Hector. Instead, his outstanding heroic quality is pietas, the Latin word that is the source of our English word piety. This word, however, meant something quite different for Virgil than it does for us. When we say someone is pious, we mean that he is devoted to God. But the word often carries the connotation that the pious person is unconcerned about the rough business of public life, fighting wars, administering justice, founding cities, and so on. For the Romans and for Christians, at least until the time of the Reformation, piety meant devotion to one's duty, whether to God or to others. A pious person is one who fulfills the responsibilities imposed by his position or his destiny. These responsibilities normally have public and political dimensions, okay? Just think about his escape from Troy. He's carrying his dad on his back. In obedience to the gods, he was fleeing Troy to go found Rome. He's got all his family with him. That's piety, okay? That's pietas in Aeneas. Now, so I listened to a book recently called The Household and the War for the Cosmos. Any of you guys heard about this book?
Sounds
Okay.
interesting though.
Yeah, so he spends a lot of time
I'm good.
dwelling on
You love war.
Yep, sounds great.
on the New Testament and the idea of like Ephesians. The household is like the main structure by which we have to understand a lot of things that happen in the New Testament. It's like Christ comes and he reorients the world. He is now the head of the church. He is the head of his household. We are part of the body of Christ. But also how everything else should respond to that. But he spends like the first half of the book just spending a lot of time talking about piety. He talks about the Aeneid as well. And he says that we should really return to understanding of piety as a church. So like
Yeah.
he says a lot of the modern language that like we used to talk about with piety is kind of like watered down. So like we talk about
That's exactly what
spiritual
I think of.
disciplines, your quiet time with God. It's not a
Yeah.
religion, it's a relationship, And so these kind of like slogans and things are like a little bit watered down of what like piety used to mean. And so he argues we need to return to understanding of piety, and especially in the context of like the household. We have a duty and obligation to our family. Like we just do. We have we come into this world with things. We have responsibilities.
Yeah.
We also have an obligation, duty to serve God as Christians. So piety is a very noble quality, and so we'll see how it plays out with Aeneas. Now, Isaiah pointed this out. He is submitting to a purpose, right? To the God's purpose. So this brings up another theme, which is like the submission to fate. So we have fate, but we also have the comparable idea of furor. So we talked about this with Juno, right, or Hera. She is angry, right, because of what happened.
She's always
that I had
angry.
to
She
sing this song
hated
in my
Troy.
head to figure
She
out what
hated Troy, but then guess what? This guy Aeneas is going to go found this other great empire, and she's like, really mad. And she's like, this is not going to happen. So she is raging. She has this furor against fate, against Romulus and Remus, against the empire that's going to come, against the rest of the gods. So there's a conflict, the conflict between fate and furor. And so Aeneas is doing his best to submit out of pietas, out of piety, to this divine fate, right? However, he's fighting against this furor, this divine and human madness. So we're going to see it later with the character of Didos, who is kind of the queen of Carthage, I think. And so he is recounting his story to her, but she's going to go mad when he has to leave. And then Juno is raging as well and things like that. So we're kind of seeing this idea of piety to fate, but in conflict with fear. That's where like the main tension of the story. You have something to say, Miss Emily? Or?
You might be going to this and addressing this in a minute, but just the idea with Hera or Juno and then Aeneas's mom and their
Venus,
and how they work together with Dido. Right? Are you gonna go? Are you?
I don't know if we're there yet. I think that's next book.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten to that. Wait,
because Aeneas is just recounting a story. I think.
Yeah, in book 1, he's told to go meet with the king or with Dido or whatever, but I don't remember him going and meeting.
He meets his mom, but they don't talk about.
I don't remember.
All
anything.
right, I just thought.
Yeah, because Venus and Juno are at odds.
So what you're talking about when they're completely at odds, that they come and agree, they can find a place of agreement, both with different hearts behind the agreement, but come to agreement in making Dido fall in love with Aeneas.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, that is kind of anytime if Venus will like override all vendettas if they're like, hey, will you get this girl to fall in love with this guy? Like, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
All right, anything else you guys want to say?
I don't know. I guess
you want to summarize Bryce, kind of what we talked about so far?
That's something that I've never really thought about, but piety in that definition is definitely something we need to be returning back to. I was just looking up the Oxford definition of piety, and it just says it's quality of being religious or reverent. And I guess whenever I usually hear the word piety, I think of weak, watered down religious actions.
It's kind of describing the old Southern Baptist grandma who's
really
pious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so just returning back to
or the Puritans.
What does piety actually mean? And as we read this book, I'm guessing we're going to talk a lot more about it.
Yep.
Just like, what are our duties? What is our purpose? What has God called us to?
Yeah. What are our obligations to God, to our family?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I'm excited to read it.
I like it.
Yep.
All right. So Aeneas is the hero of piety. We're looking at two epics here combined. Mythology, a history for Rome.
Complicated with trying to figure out which god is which, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's all good. We love it. We love it. All right, that's about it. So Isaiah, we got some donor shout outs, but Isaiah, how would someone get a donor shout out if they wanted one?
Well, they'd have to go to patreon.com/booking it and donate to any of our tiers that are, guess what, $5 and up. That's
$5. Dude, that's it. That's like one Starbucks cup of coffee.
That's what I'm saying. Not even. It's like half a cup
I
of
work
Starbucks.
at a place where I sell smoothies for $10.
Someone could double their subscription with us.
You could get a bonus episode like every other month if you did that. Okay. All right. Well, we have some patrons. We're going to shout them out. Let's see here.
That's true. I got to get to the Patreon
pull out the list. We have them memorized typically.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. We don't have them.
No, we don't.
We love them so much, though. They make what you hear possible, as the great Francesco from Cars 2 would say.
Right.
All right. Okay. I'm going to say the patron. Why don't you guys say if they would like the Iliad, the Odyssey, or Homer, or the Aeneid?
Is there an option for neither?
Sure. Just like you're voting for somebody. Yeah, none of these candidates.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. So, Nana, Bryson, who would you like better?
Odyssey.
All right. Isaiah, Van Pappy and Wheeler.
Probably Odyssey.
Okay. Isaiah's grandparents, Mike and Sylvia.
Aeneid.
Okay. Moses and Zara.
Oh, definitely Iliad.
Whoa, dude, it's Isaiah's.
Hey, chill. Either Odyssey or Aeneid.
Okay.
Oh.
And Jenny and Uncle Sam.
Probably Aeneid.
Mr. Mike and Miss Laura.
My dad would probably like the Iliad. My mom probably none.
Yeah, fair. Especially just this year, she dipped. She was like, Shakespeare is cool, but Miss Emily can take it. Yeah. All right, Anna.
Aeneid.
Emily.
Iliad.
Odyssey.
Howdy.
Odyssey.
My mother. Aw, Jenny.
Oh, which one is she?
All
She's
three.
she's the she's the one
I
that
think
survives.
she'll take it as a compliment. Yeah. Yeah, she is Aeneas leaving Troy, going to found this awesome household with me. Okay, her child. Mrs. Hall.
Probably Aeneid.
Will.
Well, Iliad.
Nice. Kara.
Let's go with Odyssey again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we got a good spread out there. Good
Yeah.
spread.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed that, even if you haven't read the Aeneid. If you're a challenge student like us, share with your friends, your classmates.
Yeah.
We'd really enjoy to read these along with you guys because it's better together. It's better together.
Yeah.
It's better together.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next time with Aeneid Part 2 and then Sherlock Holmes. So until next time.
Keep on booking.